everyone, my name is Desiree, and today we're going to be covering palpation of the greater trochanter, which is pretty important if you are experiencing pain in the greater trochanter. That is often known as greater trochanteric pain syndrome. So we're going to start off here. I've got a little model here and I'm going to be demonstrating along my body. But before we do, let's just talk a little bit about what greater trochanteric pain syndrome really is. So it's going to be pain along the outside of the hip. It's usually a deeper pain right around the little hip bone here, and I'll go through and talk to you about all this anatomy here in just a moment. But it's going to be pain along the outside of the glute hip. You might experience this pain when you're doing things like sitting cross-legged here. That will create that deep sensation into the hip. It's kind of a burning, kind of deep stretch or achy feeling. Oftentimes people might even feel it here when they're laying down on their side at night. So that's also a really common complaint. And typically what that is, it's just because there's a little inflammation or irritation to the little tendons around the area or the little bursas, the little sacs here that allow things to move a little bit better. So if you're here and you're watching this, you're in the right place. Let's talk a little bit more about how we palpate the structures around the glute hip, around that greater trochanter, to ensure that we're in the right place and doing the right thing for what we have going on today. So that being said, we are going to first start off by palpating the iliac crest. The iliac crest is the bone around your pelvis. If you were to put your hands on your hips, you usually feel this bony landmark that curves up and around. You have two of them sitting on either side. So we're going to start off by finding the hands on the hips. Find that little bony landmark here. Okay. And you can poke around just to make sure you're feeling it. Okay. Follow that back. You can check both sides to make sure they're even. I like to poke around too. Sometimes you might find some areas that are a little bit more tender. Okay. That iliac crest attaches to a couple other bones along in the pelvic region, and together they create the little fossa where the head of your femur, the femur is your big long bone here, attaches and inserts into, and then the surrounding musculature like the glutes all work to help stabilize the femur along with the rest of the pelvis here. So to continue our palpation, what we're going to do is I like to have people stand up for this one. So you'll stand up. What you're going to do is you're going to kind of imagine, look at my feet here, you're going to imagine like you're squishing a bug. I like to just dig the heel down, keep the toes nice and loose, and you're going to swivel your foot from side to side. From there, we're going to go hand on your hip, and I'll step back for you. Hand on the hip here, and you're going to swivel around and around. And you'll feel, you can kind of poke around. Some people struggle with this one, but at one point or another, you're going to feel this little bump moving underneath you. Essentially, what that's going to be is going to be this greater trochanter, which is this bump right here along the femur where all of these muscles attach to, as you can see here. So as we're swiveling, you'll feel that little bump moving underneath your hands, and that's how you know you're in the right spot. Once you've found that, and we're trying to determine whether this is pain because of the greater trochanteric pain syndrome, you're going to find pretty pinpoint, what we call pinpoint tenderness along this region. So when you're along your greater trochanter here and you're poking around, you're going to find a pretty sharp pain that is produced when you're poking right around where that greater trochanter bone is. Okay. Then from there you can palpate the surrounding musculature. You've got your glutes. You can just kind of poke around there. Sometimes people with greater trochanteric pain syndrome will also experience pain in the glutes because they're working to help stabilize, or they're taking on a little bit more work than they should because something else is irritated. That's just how the body likes to work. Okay. Once you've found that, you can play around with it. If you've got that tenderness that I was discussing earlier, that might be a good indicator that we want to investigate what's going on here a little bit further. If that's you, I want you to go ahead and check out one of the webinars that we have posted above. You can play around with some of those exercises, listen to what we have explained in there as well, and play around with that and see how your body responds to some of those exercises. As you go through that, if you feel like you're still troubleshooting, you're not really sure what's going on, I usually say that's a really good time to reach out for help. What we do here is we actually specialize in helping people determine not only what's wrong, but what we can do about it. And we help create a customized plan that helps guide you through your recovery process. So you will be expected to do a little bit of work, but we do that with the good intentions of you're someone that wants to get back to doing what you want to do, and you don't want to have to rely on someone forever. So have fun poking around. Have fun poking around with all the resources we have available to you, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.